For the past decade, Germany has been searching for the one partner capable of anchoring its energy future, stabilizing its supply chains, and protecting its industrial base from global turbulence. But what happened over the past few months took even seasoned analysts by surprise. In a move that reshapes the balance inside the G7, Berlin just shifted a key part of its $1 billion strategic plan toward Canada. Quietly, decisively, and with consequences the world is only beginning to understand. Washington didn't anticipate it, markets didn't expect it, and yet the entire pivot now sits at the center of Europe's industrial strategy for the next decade. Welcome to Geopolitics, the channel where we break down the global moves shaping tomorrow's world. In today's video, we dive into how Germany shifted its $1 billion plan to Canada, and Washington didn't see it coming. If you're new here, consider subscribing. This is where geopolitics meets real economic strategy. Germany's decision to redirect a major component of its strategic spending toward Canada did not arrive with press conferences or triumphant headlines. Instead, it surfaced through a sequence of quiet but unmistakable agreements, culminating in a nearly $1 billion defense and technology contract signed in late 2025. The move appeared sudden to outside observers, but inside European policy circles, it marked the midpoint of a long and deliberate shift. Berlin had spent years reassessing which partners could secure its industrial future, and the old assumption that the United States would remain Germany's default anchor was no longer guaranteed. Supply chain disruptions, political unpredictability, and diverging industrial policies pushed Germany to look for a partner offering something Washington increasingly struggled to provide: stability and alignment. Canada stepped into that vacuum. The contract itself, involving advanced combat management technology, was only the visible layer of a much larger realignment. Behind it were deepening collaborations in clean energy, hydrogen infrastructure, minerals strategy, and manufacturing systems. Germany hadn't abandoned the United States. Rather, it was diversifying away from the risks attached to any single power, especially one whose policies could swing dramatically. The shock in Washington came not from the contract amount, but from the symbolism. Europe's economic engine had chosen to place a critical part of its future into the hands of a quieter, more predictable partner. To understand why Germany made this shift, we must understand what Germany became after 2022. The country long viewed as Europe's industrial backbone suddenly found itself exposed. The energy shock following Russia's invasion of Ukraine forced Berlin to rethink everything, from its fuel supply to its defense posture. Russian gas had powered its factories, anchored its export machine, and underwritten decades of economic predictability. When that disappeared, Germany faced the harsh reality that its economic model relied on a fragile foundation. The transformation began slowly, then accelerated. Germany announced historic increases in defense spending, a sweeping rearmament agenda, and the rebuilding of energy networks designed to withstand geopolitical pressure. Simultaneously, tensions with Washington quietly widened. The tariff wave of 2025, when the United States imposed broad 15% duties on European goods, sent a clear signal to Berlin. American policy could no longer be treated as an unchanging pillar. At the same time, the US-EU mega-deal, built around American energy exports, created a dependence dynamic that Germany was unwilling to accept. As the world fractured into resource blocks, Germany realized it needed partners who shared both strategic values and long-term industrial goals. It could no longer align purely out of tradition. It needed resilience. This shift placed Germany in a new role: the swing player of the Western world. No longer positioned automatically beside Washington, Berlin became a power that could choose, recalibrate, and strategically distribute its alliances. In this environment, Canada emerged not as a junior partner, but as a stabilizing counterweight, capable of supplying energy, minerals, and technological collaboration with less political turbulence and more strategic coherence. Germany didn't choose Canada by accident. It chose Canada because the fundamentals aligned almost perfectly. Above all, Germany sought predictability, something that had become increasingly difficult to find in a world defined by rapid political swings, aggressive industrial policy, and competition for strategic resources. Canada offered a combination that few others could match: political stability, regulatory clarity, a G7 economy committed to long-term planning, and vast reserves of the materials required for the industries of the future. But beyond stability, Germany saw in Canada an ideological and practical alignment. Both nations prioritize climate policy, clean energy transitions, and environmental governance. This matters deeply to Germany, where industrial decisions are increasingly tied to net zero laws and sustainability standards. A partner misaligned on these values would create friction. Canada, by contrast, enhances Germany's ability to meet its own targets. Canada also provided something the United States could not always guarantee: policy continuity. Germany's energy transition depends on decades-long investments: hydrogen infrastructure, mineral refineries, electrification systems, and high-value manufacturing. Canada's approach offered reassurance that these commitments would survive electoral cycles without dramatic reversals. On the industrial side, Canada's strengths mirrored Germany's needs. A robust financial sector, world-class engineering talent, transparent institutions, and deep ties to the European private sector allowed the two countries to collaborate seamlessly. And at a geopolitical level, Germany viewed Canada as a partner that strengthened, not complicated, Europe's security landscape. Ultimately, Canada became Germany's reliable bet because it solved the problem every advanced economy faces today: how to secure the building blocks of the next industrial era without exposing themselves to political or supply chain instability. For Berlin, Canada was no longer a peripheral ally. It was becoming a strategic partner. The turning point in the Canada-Germany relationship began with hydrogen. In 2022, when Germany scrambled to rebuild its energy architecture after losing access to Russian gas, it needed a partner capable of supplying clean, scalable, geopolitically safe fuel. Canada emerged almost immediately as a candidate. The Hydrogen Alliance signed that year laid the foundation for what would become one of the most ambitious transatlantic energy projects of the decade. By 2024, the partnership deepened through a formal memorandum of understanding designed to connect Canadian producers with German industrial buyers. This wasn't symbolic diplomacy. It was the blueprint for a future in which Germany's industrial giants, steel, chemicals, automotive, and manufacturing, would rely on Canadian clean fuel to remain globally competitive. Substantial funding followed, hundreds of millions from both governments, along with private sector commitments to build terminals, pipelines, and conversion facilities. In 2025, the partnership reached its most mature stage with the launch of a transatlantic hydrogen corridor and a European tender valued at hundreds of millions of euros specifically aimed at Canadian exporters. Germany wasn't just buying fuel, it was integrating Canada directly into its future energy system. For Germany, hydrogen was the key to breaking free from energy vulnerability. For Canada, it was the entry point into Europe's industrial core. And as energy becomes geopolitics, this partnership served as the first major pillar in the $1 billion shift toward Canada. It signaled that Ottawa was not simply a backup supplier, but an architect in Germany's long-term strategy, a role traditionally held by the United States. If hydrogen opened the door, minerals sealed the partnership. In August 2025, Germany and Canada signed a joint declaration of intent on critical minerals, an agreement far more consequential than the headlines suggested. Minerals such as lithium, nickel, cobalt, gallium, germanium, and rare earth elements form the backbone of every modern industry Germany depends on. Electric vehicles, advanced batteries, semiconductors, telecom equipment, aerospace systems, and defense platforms. Germany's vulnerability was clear. More than 90% of Europe's rare earth processing came from China. Lithium supply chains were fragmented, and geopolitical tensions made it risky for Germany to rely on any single supplier, especially in regions where political or security shocks could disrupt output overnight. Canada offered a solution that few countries could: abundant reserves, transparent governance, rule of law production, and the capacity to scale extraction and processing under Western standards. This mattered enormously to Berlin. It wasn't enough to secure minerals. They had to be sourced responsibly, predictably, and aligned with EU environmental regulations. The Minerals Pact tied Canada directly into Germany's industrial transformation. It empowered German automakers, battery producers, and tech manufacturers to build their next-generation supply chains with confidence. And it complemented Canada's own $6.4 billion investment program aimed at strengthening G7 mineral security. For Germany, the agreement wasn't just about resources. It was about survival in a world where energy and materials define geopolitical leverage. For Canada, it positioned the country as the anchor of Western mineral resilience. Together, these factors formed the second pillar of Germany's $1 billion strategic shift, deepening a partnership that Washington had not anticipated. The culmination of the shift came with the November 2025 defense agreement. Germany's acquisition of an advanced Canadian-built combat management system valued at nearly $1 billion. Although defense spending is only one piece of Germany's rearmament program, this contract carried symbolic and strategic weight far beyond its price tag. For decades, Germany's major defense purchases tilted toward either American or domestically integrated European platforms. Choosing Canada, especially for a system tied directly to naval command and control, marked a departure from traditional procurement patterns. Berlin wasn't just buying equipment. It was embedding Canada into the architecture of its future military operations. The decision reflected two realities. First, Germany sought suppliers aligned with its technological and strategic priorities: interoperability with NATO, cyber resilience, and next-generation naval systems. Second, Canada had proven itself capable of delivering complex defense technologies with reliability and long-term support. But beneath the surface, the deal represented the consolidation of everything built since 2022. Shared energy planning, mineral cooperation, industrial alignment, and converging geopolitical interests. Through this contract, Berlin signaled that Canada was no longer a complementary partner. It was a core partner. For Washington, the move was a wake-up call. Germany had demonstrated that its defense modernization would not default to American systems. The message wasn't anti-US, it was a declaration of autonomy. In a world of escalating geopolitical rivalry, Germany wanted a diversified network of trusted suppliers, and Canada had earned a place at the top of that list. This defense contract crystallized the $1 billion shift, turning a series of strategic alignments into a visible realignment of power within the G7. The United States didn't foresee Germany's pivot for one simple reason. It assumed the transatlantic relationship would remain unchanged. For decades, Germany relied heavily on American security guarantees, industrial partnerships, and technological infrastructure. Washington expected continuity, but Washington misread the signals coming from Berlin. First, U.S. trade policy had grown increasingly unpredictable. Tariffs on European goods in 2025, combined with shifting energy priorities, created pressure on Germany's export-driven economy. Second, Washington's focus had moved toward Asia, especially competition with China, leaving Europe to navigate more of its economic challenges independently. Third, political volatility in the U.S. raised concerns in Berlin about long-term reliability. Industrial planning that spans 30 years cannot depend on election cycles. Meanwhile, Canada presented the opposite profile. Consistent policy, aligned climate goals, stable institutions, and a diplomatic approach highly compatible with German strategic culture. By the time Washington realized a shift was underway, Canada had already integrated itself into Germany's energy plans, minerals strategy, and defense modernization. The United States didn't lose Germany, it lost exclusivity. And in a multipolar world, exclusivity is extremely valuable. Germany's diversification wasn't driven by dissatisfaction. It was driven by necessity. Washington simply underestimated how quickly necessity could turn into partnership with another G7 ally. What Germany sought, Canada provided, and what Washington expected, it could no longer take for granted. Germany's strategic shift toward Canada is more than a bilateral adjustment. It reshapes the internal dynamics of the G7. For Canada, this is a defining moment. A country often overshadowed by its larger neighbors is emerging as a foundational pillar of Western resilience in energy, minerals, and defense. Within the G7, power is increasingly measured not just by GDP, but by control over the resources and technologies that define the future. Canada sits at the crossroads of several critical domains: clean hydrogen, battery materials, advanced manufacturing potential, Arctic access, and trusted security infrastructure. For Europe, the shift signals a new era of partnership, one less dependent on American direction and more distributed among stable allies who bring unique strengths. For the United States, it is a reminder that influence must be maintained, not assumed. And for Canada, it marks a new diplomatic identity, a country capable of attracting strategic alignment from the world's most advanced economies. The implications extend far beyond the $1 billion deal. They touch supply chain security, NATO modernization, climate transition pathways, and the balance of transatlantic influence. In effect, Germany's bet on Canada redraws the map of who shapes the future of Western prosperity. As the global system fragments, partnerships like these become anchors of stability. And in this moment, Canada isn't following the realignment. It is helping lead it. This goes far beyond a contract. It's the story of how Germany quietly shifted its $1 billion plan to Canada, and how that single decision revealed a deeper realignment inside the G7. And there you have it. Thank you for watching Geocapitalist. If you found value, I encourage you to watch our next video, where we explore the next major shift in the world's economic power map. Don't forget to subscribe and join us as we continue decoding the strategies reshaping the world. Thank you for watching, and as always, see you in the next one.